Picture this. After dinner, one person sits on the couch and unwraps a cupcake. It's been a long day, and they just want something sweet before bed. Across town, someone else opens a cold beer. Nothing crazy, just a way to relax after work. Most people wouldn't think twice about either choice. One is dessert, the other is a drink. Pretty normal, right? But here's something most people never stop to think about. When those foods reach your body, your liver doesn't see them the way you do. Your liver doesn't care if something is sold in the bakery section or the alcohol aisle. It doesn't care what's socially accepted. It doesn't care what everyone else is doing. All it sees is another chemical load arriving for processing. And sometimes that load is a lot heavier than we realize. For years, alcohol has gotten most of the blame when it comes to liver damage. But lately, doctors and researchers have been asking a different question. What if sugar is doing more damage than people think? What if that daily soda, sweet coffee, energy drink, or late-night dessert is putting your liver under stress in ways you never noticed? So, which one is actually worse? Sugar or alcohol? The answer isn't as simple as most people expect. And by the end of this video, you may look at both very differently. Most people don't think much about their liver. You can't see it. You usually can't feel it working, and it rarely complains until something has already gone wrong. But the truth is, your liver is one of the hardest working organs in your entire body. Think of it like a giant factory that never closes. While you're awake, it's working. While you're asleep, it's still working. Every meal you eat passes through it. Every drink you consume affects it. One of its biggest jobs is turning food into usable energy. It helps your body decide what to use now, what to store for later, and what needs to be removed. It also acts like your personal filtration system. Your liver helps break down medications, alcohol, chemicals, and countless substances that enter your body every day. On top of that, it plays a major role in managing fat. It helps produce, store, move, and burn fat when your body needs it. When your liver is healthy, all of these jobs happen quietly in the background. You don't notice a thing. But when your liver becomes overloaded, the effects can spread everywhere. Your energy drops. Your metabolism slows down. Fat starts building up where it shouldn't. And over time, small problems can turn into much bigger ones. That's why understanding how the liver works matters so much. Because when we talk about sugar and alcohol, we're really talking about the amount of pressure we're putting on this incredible organ every single day. Let's start with something your body was designed to handle: glucose. This is the basic form of sugar your cells use for energy. When you eat foods like fruit, potatoes, rice, oatmeal, or whole grains, glucose enters your bloodstream. That's when insulin steps in. Think of insulin like a key. Its job is to help move glucose out of the blood and into your cells where it can actually be used. Your muscles take in a large amount of it. Your brain uses it too. Other tissues throughout your body get their share as well. The important thing is that the workload gets spread around. Your liver isn't forced to deal with everything by itself. So, it's more like a team effort. Everyone helps carry the load. That's one reason the body can usually handle normal amounts of glucose without much trouble. The system has built-in controls, built-in checkpoints, built-in balance. And when everything is working properly, glucose becomes fuel. It powers movement. It supports thinking. It helps keep your body running smoothly. The story starts to change when certain types of sugar stop following those normal rules. And that's exactly where fructose enters the picture. Because unlike glucose, fructose takes a very different path through the body. And that difference may be more important than most people realize. This is where things start to get interesting. Most people hear the word sugar and assume all sugar works the same way in the body. But that's not really true. Fructose plays by a different set of rules. Unlike glucose, fructose doesn't need insulin to help guide it into cells. It skips that step entirely. Instead, it takes a shortcut, and that shortcut leads straight to your liver. The moment fructose enters your system, your liver becomes the main place responsible for dealing with it. Not your muscles, not your brain, not the rest of your body, just your liver. Now, once in a while, that's usually not a big problem. The issue is how often it happens today. Sweetened drinks, packaged snacks, flavored coffees, desserts after dinner. For many people, fructose shows up all day long, and every time it does, the liver gets another job added to its workload. Over time, that constant pressure starts to add up. It's kind of like having one employee handle every delivery that comes into a busy warehouse. At first, everything seems fine, but eventually, things start piling up, and that's when trouble begins. Now, let's talk about alcohol. A lot of people assume alcohol spreads evenly throughout the body and gets handled by different organs, but that's not really what happens. When you drink alcohol, the active ingredient is ethanol, and ethanol has one main destination: your liver. Just like fructose, alcohol doesn't get shared around the body the way glucose does. Your muscles can't help much. Your brain can't help much. Your liver ends up doing almost all the work. In other words, every drink you have creates a task that your liver has to finish. The bigger the drink, the bigger the task. The problem is that alcohol isn't just extra fuel. Your liver treats it more like a substance that needs immediate attention. It moves to the front of the line. Everything else gets pushed aside while the liver works to break it down. That's why regular drinking can become such a burden over time. The liver never really gets a chance to catch up. And when that cycle repeats day after day, the damage can build quietly, long before a person notices any symptoms. There's a simple idea that helps explain why all of this matters. It's called metabolic partitioning. That sounds complicated, but the concept is actually pretty easy. Think of your body like a team. When glucose comes in, the workload gets shared. Your muscles take some, your brain takes some. Other tissues take what they need. Everybody helps carry the load. That's one reason normal glucose metabolism is usually well controlled. But fructose and alcohol are different. They don't get distributed the same way. Instead, most of the responsibility falls on one organ: the liver. Imagine moving into a new house. If 10 people help carry boxes, the job gets done quickly. If one person carries every single box alone, sooner or later, they're going to get exhausted. That's essentially what happens inside the body. The liver keeps taking on more work while the rest of the team sits on the sidelines. And when that continues for years, the effects start showing up in ways many people never expected. That's why understanding where these substances go is just as important as understanding how much you're consuming. A lot of people think alcohol itself is the biggest problem, but that's only part of the story. What surprised me when I first learned about this is that alcohol doesn't stay alcohol for very long inside the body. Your liver immediately starts breaking it down, and in the process, it creates something called acetaldehyde. The scary part? Acetaldehyde is actually more toxic than the alcohol you drank. Think about it this way. You have a drink to relax for an hour or two, but your liver has to deal with the chemical mess that's left behind. As acetaldehyde builds up, it can start damaging important parts of your cells. It can interfere with DNA, which is basically the instruction manual your cells rely on every day. It can also damage proteins that help your body function properly. And on top of that, it creates oxidative stress. That's a fancy term for wear and tear happening inside your cells. A little bit once in a while isn't usually the issue. The real problem is repetition. When alcohol becomes a regular habit, your liver never gets enough time to fully recover. Day after day, the damage slowly adds up. And most people don't feel it happening until much later. Most people assume fatty liver happens because someone eats too much fat. But that's not always true. Alcohol can create fatty liver even when dietary fat isn't the main issue. Here's why. When your liver processes alcohol, it changes the balance of important molecules called NAD+ and NADH. You don't need to remember those names. Just know that they help your cells turn stored fat into energy. When that balance gets thrown off, your liver struggles to burn fat efficiently. It's like having a fireplace full of wood, but no way to keep the fire going. The fat is there, but it isn't being used. So it starts piling up, little by little, day after day. At first, there may be no symptoms at all. You can feel perfectly fine. But inside the liver, fat droplets begin collecting where they shouldn't be. That's why fatty liver is so common among people who drink regularly. It's not simply about calories. It's about how alcohol changes the way the liver handles and burns fat. And over time, that hidden buildup can become a serious problem. Now, here's the part that surprises a lot of people. Fructose doesn't damage the liver the same way alcohol does. It's much quieter, much slower, but that doesn't mean it's harmless. When large amounts of fructose reach the liver starts turning some of it into fat. Scientists call this process de novo lipogenesis. That's just a complicated way of saying your liver is making new fat from sugar. Think about that for a second. You're not eating fat, yet your liver is creating fat on its own. The more often this happens, the more fat starts building up inside liver cells. And because this process is slow, most people never notice it. There are usually no warning signs, no pain, no obvious symptoms. Just years of sweet drinks, processed snacks, desserts, and hidden sugars adding extra work to the liver. Eventually, those small amounts begin to add up. That's why some people who rarely drink alcohol can still end up with fatty liver disease. The liver doesn't care where the overload came from. If too much fat keeps being produced and stored, the result can look surprisingly similar. And that's what makes fructose so easy to underestimate. One thing most people never hear about fructose is what it does behind the scenes. When your liver processes fructose, it uses up a lot of ATP. Think of ATP as your body's energy currency. Every cell depends on it. It's what helps keep everything running smoothly. The problem is that fructose can burn through ATP surprisingly fast. And when those energy levels drop, your body starts creating more uric acid. Now, uric acid isn't just something people with gout need to worry about. Research has shown that higher uric acid levels can affect blood vessel function and make it harder for blood vessels to relax normally. Over time, that may contribute to higher blood pressure. But that's not all. As this process continues, the liver can become less responsive to insulin. In other words, insulin starts knocking on the door, but the liver doesn't listen as well as it should. That's what insulin resistance is. And once that starts happening, blood sugar control becomes much harder. What surprises me is how quietly this can develop. No pain, no obvious warning signs. Just years of excess sugar slowly pushing the body in the wrong direction. By the time many people notice a problem, the process has already been happening for a long time. Here's something I never used to connect with liver health. Your gut and your liver are constantly talking to each other. They're more connected than most people realize. Inside your intestines, there's a protective lining, often called the gut barrier. Its job is pretty simple. Keep harmful things out and let helpful nutrients in. When that barrier is healthy, it does a great job. But chronic exposure to too much alcohol or too much sugar can start weakening it over time. Tiny gaps may begin to form, and that's when trouble can sneak through. Bacterial toxins that normally stay inside the gut can enter the bloodstream and head straight to the liver. The liver then has to deal with these unwanted visitors, and it treats them like a threat, so the immune system gets involved. The result is more inflammation. Not the kind you can feel right away, the kind that quietly lingers in the background month after month. That's why liver health isn't just about what happens inside the liver itself. Sometimes the problem starts in the gut and eventually reaches the liver. One of the biggest problems with liver inflammation is that it's usually silent. Most people expect serious health problems to come with clear symptoms: pain, discomfort. Note: a warning sign that something is wrong, but the liver doesn't always work that way. As the liver faces ongoing stress, the immune system begins releasing chemical messengers called cytokines. You don't need to remember that name. Just think of them as signals that tell the body there's trouble. The problem is that when those signals stay turned on for too long, inflammation becomes chronic. It's no longer helping. It's causing damage. Little by little, day after day, year after year. The liver keeps trying to repair itself, but it never gets a full break. And that's what makes chronic inflammation so dangerous. It's not one big event. It's thousands of small injuries happening over time. Most people feel completely normal while this is going on. That's why liver disease can be so surprising. The damage often builds quietly in the background, long before symptoms finally appear. And by then, reversing the problem becomes much more difficult. That's why catching these habits early matters so much. One thing that shocked me when I first learned about liver disease is that the liver doesn't go from healthy to severely damaged overnight. It happens in stages, slowly, quietly, and one of those stages is called fibrosis, or liver scarring. Inside the liver are special cells called stellate cells. Most of the time, they stay calm and do their normal job. But when the liver is under constant stress from alcohol, excess sugar, inflammation, or fat buildup, those cells start behaving differently. They switch into repair mode. At first, that sounds like a good thing. The problem is that when the damage never stops, the repair process never stops either. So these cells begin producing scar tissue, little by little, month after month, year after year. Think about a small cut on your skin. A scar forms because the body is trying to heal. The liver does something similar. The difference is that these scars build up inside an organ you can't see and usually can't feel. As more scar tissue develops, the liver becomes less flexible and less efficient. And that's when simple liver stress can slowly turn into something much more serious. The scary part is that many people feel completely normal while this is happening. At this point, a lot of different problems start leading to the same place, and that place is your mitochondria. You can think of mitochondria as tiny power plants inside your cells. They're responsible for producing the energy your body needs every day. When alcohol, excess fructose, inflammation, and fat buildup continue for years, these power plants come under constant pressure. One reason is something called reactive oxygen species. Basically, they're unstable molecules that can damage healthy cells if too many of them build up. Your body has ways to fight back. One of the most important defenses is glutathione. Some people call it the body's master antioxidant. Its job is to help neutralize harmful compounds before they cause damage. But when the liver is constantly overloaded, glutathione can get depleted faster than it can be replaced. That's when oxidative stress starts gaining ground. And once the mitochondria begin struggling, energy production drops. People often notice this as feeling tired more often. Less energy, less stamina, less resilience. It's not always caused by age alone. Sometimes it's the result of years of silent stress happening inside the body. Have you ever noticed how fatty liver, belly fat, and type 2 diabetes seem to show up together? That's not a coincidence. They're all connected. One of the biggest links is insulin resistance. When the liver becomes less responsive to insulin, the entire system starts becoming less efficient. Blood sugar becomes harder to control, fat storage increases, and the body starts sending mixed signals about what to burn and what to store. At the same time, triglycerides often begin rising. These are fats that circulate through the bloodstream. When triglyceride levels stay high, they don't just affect the liver. They can affect blood vessels and heart health too. That's why fatty liver isn't really just a liver problem. It's often a sign that metabolism throughout the body is starting to struggle. What begins as extra fat inside the liver can eventually influence blood sugar, weight gain, cholesterol levels, and cardiovascular health. That's why doctors pay so much attention to fatty liver today. It's often one of the earliest warning signs that something bigger may be developing beneath the surface. And the earlier you catch it, the better your chances of turning things around. So, after everything we've talked about, there's one question left. Which one is actually worse, sugar or alcohol? Honestly, that's probably not the right question. Because the truth is, both can damage the liver. They just do it in different ways. Alcohol is more aggressive. The damage can happen faster. Your liver has to deal with toxic byproducts almost immediately. It's like a direct attack. That's one reason heavy drinking can lead to serious liver problems in a relatively short amount of time. Sugar works differently. It doesn't usually hit the liver like a punch. It's more like a slow drip. A little today, a little tomorrow, then a little more the next day. Years go by, and most people never notice what's happening. The sweet coffee in the morning, the soda with lunch, the dessert after dinner, none of those choices seem dangerous on their own. But the effects can quietly build over time. That's what makes excess sugar so easy to underestimate. If alcohol is the storm you can see coming, sugar is often the leak behind the wall that nobody notices until the damage is already there. And in the end, your liver doesn't really care which one caused the problem. Whether the stress came from alcohol or years of excess sugar, the result can look surprisingly similar. Fat buildup, inflammation, scarring, reduced liver function. That's why this isn't about deciding which one is the villain. It's about understanding that both have limits. And every time we push beyond those limits, the liver pays the price. The good news? You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to give up every treat or never enjoy another drink. But once you understand what's happening inside your body, it's a lot easier to make choices that protect your health instead of slowly working against it. And that awareness alone can make a bigger difference than most people realize.